I really enjoy using p5.js to create fun little creative coding projects like this mouse attractor that we see here on this website hero. However, there's another library called q5.js that saves you a bundle on size and makes your website more performant, as well as being pretty easy to implement right on top of p5. I'm going to show you how to use that in this video.
Hey there, WebBay.
So this is the GitHub repository for Q5.xjs. It's by this guy, Ling Dong. Really appreciate him building this thing. It says Q5.js is a small and fast alternative, in parentheses, experimental implementation of p5.js. So it emphasizes being lightweight, 33 kilobytes minified versus 800 plus for p5 1.1.9, and says it's fast by using a thinner wrapper on the Canvas API. If we come to the p5.js website, we can scroll down to the Getting Started section. It looks like they're on version 1.8 by now, so quite a bit further on than what he was referencing in Q5. So we can load this up in the browser and select the network tab, and I'll refresh here. And we can see that p5.js is actually 740 kilobytes now for the latest version. If we go ahead and get the minified version of this by just adding .min.js to the end of that, we can see that the minified version is 239 kilobytes. So if we take 239 minus 33, that's a saving of 206 kilobytes. 206 kilobytes is a decent savings if you can implement Q5 really easily on top of your P5 project. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. All right, so here's that P5 project, the gravity mouse attractor that I showed you in the start. If we come down, all the code is right down here. So the very first thing we're going to need to do is get rid of our P5 code here, and we'll bring in that Q5 code. So right here, we can see the CDN link is this. So we'll go ahead and copy that. All right, so that's pasted in now. So if we scroll up just a little bit, we can see a basic implementation of Q5. I'm going to be using Q5 in global mode, which is how I'm using P5 in this project. So in our code at the very start, we'll just say new Q5 and then in parentheses, give that string of global. Now, if we save and publish, let's see how this looks. All right, it's broken. It wasn't as easy as we had hoped, but we'll come over to console and see what we get. It says cannot read properties of undefined reading style. So we can fix that. Back in our code, we see that we've called the create canvas method with window width and window height and tried to store that in a variable called CNV. Now with P5 and Q5 in global mode, create canvas should be available in the global namespace. So we can actually look for that by saying create canvas, and it's right there, open and close parentheses, and we'll say window width, which is also available, and window height. And if we hit enter, we see we get undefined. So if I said something like let CNV equal create canvas and press enter, we can see that CNV has nothing stored in it, right? So we can't actually access that. Whereas P5 returns the canvas value from create canvas, we get nothing with Q5. So we're gonna have to do this ourselves. So here in the code, let's delete this storage in a variable. So we'll instead get a reference to our canvas by calling the document query selector method, passing in the tag name of canvas and storing that in our CNV variable. Now query selector is just going to get the first instance of the canvas that it finds on the page. So if you have more than one canvas, you're gonna need a different solution here. On the canvas element, style is not a function, but it is a property. So we can set the display property just like this. So this is how we'll set the canvas style display property to block. And we can do that with the rest of our elements here too. Let's go ahead and save now and see what this gives us. All right, so we can see our canvas with the little ball that we have on there, but moving the mouse over the canvas doesn't actually do anything. If I select the canvas element that is now in the DOM, I can see it's got that width and height that we want and those style properties that we want as well. Looking at our code, we're using the P5 mouse moved function to detect when the mouse is moved. If I go ahead and console.log mouse move inside of that function, we can double check that this is actually firing in the first place. So we save and refresh and take a look in the console, and we can see that when we're moving our mouse, there's actually nothing being logged. So let's go ahead and experiment with what's going on here. I'm gonna grab that canvas element again and go ahead and set my Z index to something higher like 2. And now if I come to console and move my mouse, I can see that I'm getting some sort of action here. However, we're getting another error that says P5 is not defined at ball.attract. So let's fix that. In our code, we can see that in our attract function, we're using this function p5.vector.sub. Now, this doesn't make any sense because we're not using P5 anymore, and it's not as simple as switching this over to just be Q5. However, Q5 does take all the P5.js reference examples and show you how to do them with Q5. So in this one, we're looking for the vector namespace, and we're going to want to subtract. So we see we have the vector type subtract, and right down here, they're calling vector.sub, vector1, vector2, but there's just nothing in front of that. So there's no P5 namespace in this case. So all we have to do, we'll come back to our code and we'll delete this P5, and we'll go ahead and save, and we'll publish. Okay, now we've taken care of that little error with P5 not being defined. So let's go back to elements, and we'll come back to our canvas, and we'll set z index to 2 and see if that fixes everything. Okay, so we've lost our title, but now our code is working just how we wanted it to before. So we've got Q5 up and running. We just need to play with the CSS styling a little bit more. So something I would probably do is set the Z index to this on 1, and then we could come up to our content, and our content is in this first section, and give this we need to give it position relative first, so that then we can give it a Z index of 2. And now that's on top. However, it's still not working. Let's go ahead and try our pointer events. So if we set pointer events to none on our section there, now that mouse movement is being detected by our canvas, and we have this working exactly how we want with a much smaller and faster file with Q5.js. Now, in order to persist these changes on our site, let's go ahead and grab that content section, and I'll give it an ID of hero content. And now with that ID in there, we'll go into our page settings, and inside the head tag, we'll create a style for that ID of hero content to give it pointer events none. And then we also need to take care of our Z indexes. So let's go ahead and give a Z index of 1 to our Q5 canvas. And then on our section here, again, this is the one with hero content, we'll come down and we'll set this to position relative and our Z index to 2 so that it appears on top of our gravity attractor. And let's publish. And now we can see this is working just as it was before with a few little tricks to get us all the way there with Q5. Now, if you're more curious about JavaScript and creative coding in Webflow, you should check out my JavaScript course, which just launched in my Patreon. I'm building out a full JavaScript course in Webflow, teaching you how to make your Webflow sites more interactive with JavaScript. There's also a free roadmap to learn Webflow, which has from beginner to advanced all the courses and things that I recommend doing to get better with Webflow. Anyways, hope you enjoy the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.